policies tonight, it seems. We have the 2 sets of minutes from our last meeting, as well as the special meeting we held. Any discussion around those meetings or those minutes rather? And if not, a motion to accept the prior minutes?
I'll make that motion.
Any discussion from anyone? All right, great. By roll, Arlene,
Yes, approved.
thank you. Aaron,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Kat,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
Miranda,
Aye.
and Mary is an aye. Next up is our preview and prioritization. Lynn, do you have any thing you'd like to reprioritize?
Yes, under my agenda, I have something under personnel. I need to talk through with the board some topics around negotiations. So I will want to go into executive for that. So I'm wondering if instead of taking it up under my section, Mary, could we put it at the end so the principals could jump off?
Yeah, that seems like a good way to do that. So I'll make sure to circle back to that executive session at the end.
Okay, thank you.
All right, great. Morgan, I don't see any visitors. Do you?
No visitors yet.
All right, so no visitors for public comment at the moment. If that changes, just let me know, Morgan.
Will do.
And so that brings us to you with our financial and business report.
Okay, thanks. I actually usually come to you with a very light February meeting. I did send out the January financial report earlier today. That month just ended. I don't need any action on that. And the only other item on my agenda is if there's anything that you folks are feeling that you need in terms of annual meeting preparation. As I hope you all know, we're not doing the in-person annual meeting. We will be doing a Zoom meeting similar to the way that we did it last year, and then all articles will be voted by Australian ballot on town meeting day. As far as I know, when I last spoke with Emily Fecto, the district clerk, we had only the 3 incumbents running for the 3 seats that are up. And then the one change this year compared to previous years is that capital reserve article that we have on the warning. What I have started to do, and I'll work with Mary on this, is to come up with a slideshow that either can be recorded or can go live at that Zoom meeting, similar to the one that Jean Marie did last year, walking people through the ballot articles one by one, and then doing a deep dive when we get to the budget piece, as well as trying to give some context for the capital reserve article. So that is coming. This is also the opportunity for you guys to tell us if you're hearing anything on the street. It's, as far as I know, it's been pretty quiet. Even when I was around to hear stuff, I hadn't been hearing anything. So I don't know if anyone's heard anything, either specific to the budget or around people running or mounting a write-in campaign.
I have not heard anything in my small little world, but it is indeed small these days. Morgan, have the mailers gone out yet?
I don't believe they have. I think they were delivered to our office over the last week, and I can check in with Dorian about getting them out.
They actually they went out today, Morgan.
Oh, they did? Okay.
Okay,
Perfect.
great.
And then one thing that we're going to need to highlight in the meeting, and we'll do this on social media as well, is that after the flyers were printed, the Sheldon Select Board decided to go all Australian ballot, and they also moved their polling location from what they had initially told us it was going to be. So the location is different. It's at the town clerk's office, not at the school. We will make sure that Christy gets signage up at the school if people do show up on town meeting day. And then we'll just push that message out in all the channels that we have.
And Morgan, all the budget for NMV got to all the towns for printing in their
Yes.
annual meeting books
Yeah.
for the respective towns.
Yes, it did.
And Morgan, are you and I going to find a time to go through the slideshow so that I'm prepared?
Yep, what I'll do is I'll share it with you and let you kind of do a walk through it and look at the notes that I've put into it. And then you can, if you want to fire questions back by email, we can do that, or we can just get together on a Zoom
Yeah.
or a combination of both.
Perfect. Yeah, probably a Zoom will be helpful. While maybe looking at the slideshow, since I'm very visual in that way, that will be helpful.
Absolutely.
Okay, super. Good. So we'll keep in touch around that.
Yep. And that's really all I have, unless you've got questions.
Great. Wow. You're helping make this a very expeditious process. So meeting so far, Morgan.
Well, I've kind of been a meeting killer for the last 3 months, so I'm glad to be quick.
All right, excellent. Okay, thanks, Morgan. Then Lynn, that brings us to you.
So I just want to acknowledge, I think there was an error. I got my board report out late, and I was told this morning, Jamie, that for whatever reason, the copy that was sent to the board did not have the personnel information on it. So I apologize. I'll go through each of those sections. So under hiring, we have hired 2 paraeducators. We've hired Haley Paquette as a paraeducator in Bakersfield and Heather Shagnon as a paraeducator in Sheldon. That's just informational. Actually, all of this is informational until we get into the executive session. We have had 1 resignation at Berkshire, Olivia LeBlanc, paraeducator. We still have open positions at Berkshire. We have 2 paraeducator positions, a behavior technician. Sheldon has a behavior technician and a long-term elementary teacher sub, actually 2 of those. We're struggling across the supervisor union finding people that want to come in to do long-term substitute teacher positions. I also just want to say that our own Mr. Bordeaux is about to begin an FMLA leave because he has a new little one coming very soon. So we're excited about that for him. So I just wanted to tell the board the plan. So Mr. Bordeaux is going to be out for a week in February and then 3 weeks at the end of the year for his leave. So Robin Gagne, our Assistant Director of Student Services, will be covering that leave. So she'll be working with Mr. Bordeaux next week to do a little shadowing, and they'll be doing some planning together. So we're excited for him to welcome his new little one, but we'll miss him while he's gone for sure. For student, I thought I was going to have something under student, and it did not come my way today. I thought there was going to be a residency request, but I didn't see that. So it's possible I may need to circle back to this board and ask you to come together at another time to deal with that request. I will ask under number 3, the reduction in force notice every year. We generally notify the teachers union that we may need to contemplate a reduction in force. This is not a decision to lay anyone off. It is just a notice that the board has chosen to consider prior to the budgets going to vote. It is super unlikely that we would be in that position because we're in such a hiring, the circumstance is really tough around hiring right now. So I think that I still would ask you to make the motion because it's something they're used to seeing from us each March, and it's too late to do it once we've gone through and offered contracts. So the motion would be to direct the superintendent to send a letter to the Cold Hollow Education Association president notifying him that the board may contemplate a reduction in force.
I'll make that
I'll make-
motion. By roll, Miranda,
Aye.
Pat.
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Arlene,
Aye.
Aaron.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you. In terms of COVID-related updates, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this tonight because we have other lengthier topics to attend to. These last weeks have been challenging in our public schools as we've been dealing with the Omicron variant and the more transmissible variation of this virus. And so we continue to have high numbers of positive individuals connected in our schools. We've had several weeks right around the 100 case mark, and that certainly doesn't feel good throughout the organization. The shift that happened from us doing test to stay to us sending tests home to do the test at home program was a really heavy lift because it required a lot of logistical planning and figuring it out as we were at the same time that we were expected to be implementing it. So we'll tell you that the principals and the nurses have been working really hard to make that work and get those test kits out to families as we said we would. And I know I spoke with the nurses today, and although it still feels like a heavy lift, I'm getting the sense that they're able to disconnect a little in the evening and on the weekends, which is something that they have not been able to do since the start, I would say since Thanksgiving of 2020. It kind of started then with a lot more contact tracing. So they had, spent a lot of time working a lot of really late hours and over the weekends and vacation hours as well. So they're finally, with the shift away from contact tracing, not having to do all of that. So they're really able to set some clearer boundaries in the evening on the weekend, and I've asked them to do so. And that doesn't always feel good when they're telling people, I'm going to get back to you first thing in the morning. But I think that it is the healthy thing to do at this point, as we're in that part of the pandemic where we're really shifting more towards the personal responsibility for understanding what you need to do if you test positive. And we certainly have sent out ample resources for people to know where to look and understand what they need to do. So had a little bit of a supply shortage right at the beginning. So we had our first week, and then we had some moments of high anxiety because we were running very low on tests. We had such high case counts in that first week. And we were moving around tests from one school to another to just try to make sure people had what they needed. And the agency came through and delivered 10,000 test kits to us right as we were about to run out. So right now we're, knock on wood, in an okay place with our testing supplies. We're expecting that we'll have another delivery next week. So we're housing those kits here, and we're going to deploy to schools. The nurses have not asked us not to deploy the tons of boxes to each of the schools right now. So when they start to run low, we'll start deploying more test kits out. So for now, we're feeling okay. I know they're still dealing with some supply chain issues at the state level, but we have not felt that from our perspective. So the logistics seem to be coming together at this point. The challenges that still remain have to do with students needing to be out. And it isn't because they're having to quarantine as much anymore, because they can be doing the testing and not having to quarantine, but just because of the number of cases that we're contending with. I think the biggest challenge right now in schools is staffing, because we have had, I will tell you, the leaders on this call have been they have just had superpowers to try to figure out how to keep our schools open. And I admire that so much. They really even when I've said, are you sure? Are you sure you can figure this out and that you have enough staff to operate? They've really found a way to make it work, and they've had to work pretty hard to be able to do that. So that's the big challenge right now. We did have to close one school for only one day this week. It was not an NMV school, but we were able to figure out the staffing challenge for the next day. So any questions, comments on the COVID related pieces?
Lynn, I just want to thank you all for holding it together.
Thank you, Lisa. So I'm going to shift into the legislative update piece. And I went through, are you all now receiving the education legislative report from the Bsba? So you have the ability to go through that. I won't spend a lot of time talking through all of the components of that because you're all getting it and receiving it as well. I will say just a couple of things about Governor Scott's State of the State and his budget address. It's very clear that workforce development is high on his priority list. And of the 90 million that is in excess in the education fund, right now it looks like his plan is to reinvest 45 million of that on infrastructure for pre-K-12 public schools that are centered on programs to develop the workforce. So I think you're going to see a lot of that money geared towards our CTE centers and programs. He's definitely, I think, signaling he wants earlier attention to workforce development as early as middle school. He wants to be doing more PR campaigns with middle school, high school parents to try to get people interested in exploring that pathway for the future as well. So that was exciting. In terms of education funding, you'll see that there is a bill out there centered on wanting to shift, as you can, now that you're 1 month out from having finalized your budget vote, when Morgan walked you through the complex budget formula, the school funding formula that we have in the state of Vermont, there's a proposal in the legislature right now just to kind of keep our eyes on, shifting away from our current funding system to more of an income-based education funding system. So we'll be keeping our eyes on that. One of the things that's happening at the legislature that is, I would say, most important to us is the implementation of the pupil weighting factors report. So I'm actually testifying about that on Friday, and that is a big deal for us because it's about making sure that students across Vermont have more equitable opportunities no matter what their zip code is. So it's taking, when you look at the number of students in your school, certain groups of students, they're factored at higher rates because so poverty, for example, is factored at a much heavier weight because students generally who live in poverty need some additional resources and supports in public schools. So for us, the impact of the pupil weighting study is really important because it has a profoundly positive impact on both districts within FNESU. So it isn't true across the state. There are some districts across the state who have benefited from the existing weighting measure for a couple of decades. And so when they reweight and they recalculate, more money goes towards students who live in poverty and students who are in special education or high school, middle school, things like that. When they reweight, they kind of lose out. So they're, as you can imagine, they're trying to contend with those that are going to be losing revenue and those that will be gaining revenue as a result of this shift. So we're keeping our eye on that. The other thing that is important and we have our eyes on is the Act 173 implementation. And we've all been working towards readiness for the Act 173 shift for 4 school years now. So you've heard an awful lot from us, and these leaders have heard an awful lot from us in terms of our preparation and intent to be ready for these shifts. This was delayed twice already, and there is a push to delay again. I've heard that at one point I was thinking that there was likely to be a delay. I think now my sense is it is a little less likely that we'll see a delay in Act 173. So I think what we're seeing from our state partners is they're trying to figure out who's going to need some support to figure out the financial shifts and which systems are going to need the support to figure out the academic system shifts that need to be in place. So we'll keep our eye on that. Stuff happening with the teachers' retirement system, of course, that's important for us to pay attention to. Lots of things around workforce development, as I've already spoken about. The school facilities, one thing that stood out to me was the assessment of all the school facilities that was expected in January has just been pushed back to March. So we'll be looking for that. And there are other various bills that we're also keeping our eyes on, but those are the big ones for now. Anyone have any questions or comments on anything that they saw in the legislative update or they would like more information on? Lisa, is there anything you want to add in there?
Thank you, Lynn. I don't think so at this point, but certainly if anybody has any questions, please reach out to me.
Okay, thank you. Under other, I just wanted to give this board the preview that at the February, I think it's the February 28th FNESU board meeting, the draft FNESU mission, vision, and goals will be on the table, and the board will be working through approving those. Also at that meeting will be a discussion about the transportation study that we have been working with a contractor, and Morgan, I'm not going to remember the details about that, but they're going to be presenting their findings to us at that February meeting. So it's exciting to see when we look at transportation through the lens of equity, what that's going to look like in terms of what recommendations they bring back to us. So those are two things that are coming. And that's all I have other than my executive session.
Great, thanks, Lynn. Appreciate it. So we can move on to our principal reports. Rhoda, do you have anything that you would like to add or highlight in your report? Or
I don't think so. I think we're good.
any questions for
Nobody
Rhoda
has
from the board?
questions?
No? Okay. Lenny,
Oh,
do you?
you have one thing, Mary. Update
yeah,
on
please.
update on the boiler. We've heard that our new boiler may be here tomorrow.
Oh,
It'd be
yay.
awesome.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. And Rhoda, the frozen pipe situation that was part of the sprinkler system, was Vern able to troubleshoot that enough for now?
Yeah, for now. I mean, there's some insulation work that needs to be done.
Yeah.
For now, we're okay.
Okay, good, good. I'm glad that that wasn't any worse, but that's some serious cold to contend with in an
For sure.
uninsulated space, it sounds like.
Yeah.
So we've got some work to do, it seems like. Okay, good. Well, that's great news about the boiler. Wonderful. And Fred's is doing the installation on that?
They are.
Great. All right, good stuff. Lenny, do you have anything that you would like to add or highlight in your report?
No, I think I've pretty much covered everything there. We did have another ski trip today, which I believe would have been our third one. I put 2 in there at that time. Yeah, we had one today, so we had a third one. I think kids really enjoyed being out there in the much warmer weather than we've had.
Yeah, it's about time.
On the mountain.
It was like spring skiing today a little
I
bit.
know.
Or a
Yeah, I
taste
was
of it.
jealous. I didn't get to go, but I think they had a lot of fun.
I bet they did. That's awesome. Nice. So glad for the kids. It's good. Any questions for Lenny from the board? Great. Thanks, Lenny. Sandy, do you have anything that you'd like to add to or highlight from your board report?
I just have to say, I'm super excited because we're in the middle of Junk to Funk and it's so much fun. Our
Nice.
school is hopping. The music is bumping out of the gym and it's really exciting. So I encourage any of you who would like to stop by. I mean, it's going on all day and the performance is Friday, and I'm not sure how the pending snow is looking, but I do have the artist. I have extended the room at the Black Lantern so that he can stay through Monday if we need him. So
Nice. It looks like, because the performance is 1:30 on Friday, right, Sandy? It seems like things will be wrapping up by like late morning, early afternoon on Friday. So I think it'll be just fine.
well, whatever happens, we're prepared.
Great. I'm looking forward to it. I'll be there for sure.
Great, thank you.
Can't wait. All right. Christy, do you have anything that you would like to add to or highlight from your board report?
Only that Sheldon goes on our ski days the same day as Berkshire and Lenny's group. So I was leaving the building as that last bus came in, because we have a 5 o'clock bus that comes back, and they had a blast.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yep.
And Christy, I was hoping to check in a little bit about the room usage study. I appreciate you sending that that along. And I was just wondering if we could talk through the only thing that's a little hard for me, because I know it's such a kind of big floor plan, is I don't exactly kind of know where all these rooms are in relation to one another. But this was a really helpful way to kind of get a sense of your numbers and times of day and such. So, you know, I know we need to kind of move forward because the board has kind of just, you know, decided that we're going to be expanding our early ed opportunities at Sheldon to kind of be much more in line with what we're providing across the district. So that being said, it seems to me, looking at what you presented, that the best next step is to possibly pull in Vern to come look at some of the spaces. The things that stood out to me the most were some of this, you know, when I looked at the square footage, is that there are a couple of spaces with a pretty large amount of floor space, the music and library spaces. You know, then you have that math intervention room, but it doesn't seem as though it's exclusively used just for math intervention, because it seems as though you've got some overflow office space in there too. But I would like to see, and you know, whether there's a possibility for kind of Vern to come in and kind of assess square footage wise, whether there's a way to kind of divide up some of those spaces in order to find that square footage that we're going to need for another pre-K space. That seems to me the best next step in this process.
Mm-hmm. He has been in the building, so we have looked at a few things. We have not sat down and just exclusively talked about that. But we had a couple ideas, and I guess whatever we do, we have to recognize that we are, our numbers are growing, and we are using rooms like the conference room for a classroom. And so we're already getting to kind of maxed out space. Our kindergartens, we have 2 kindergarten classrooms. One has 19, one has 21 actually. So as those groups go up, you know, the classes are just bigger. So those are things we're going to have to contend with, not this year, maybe not even next year, but down the road, especially if we combine some spaces or do something different for preschool. So we just have to keep that in mind, right?
Sure.
Like we're going to, you know, we have lots of kids.
Yeah.
I think that's, you know, an important factor to keep in mind. And I think that the other piece is, you know, I was in Berkshire for a long time, and we contended before the construction project with many of the same issues, Christy, where we were literally having to move classrooms around much more regularly than I would have liked and what was comfortable for our staff. And at the same time, we had to keep shifting based on the changing needs of the students. So the other piece that you and I have talked about, and although it's not favorable for some reasons, is we also are in a place where you have spaces that are geared towards like one particular content. So you have an art space that is dedicated just to art, and you have a music space that is dedicated just to music, and you have the big library space. So it's going to come down to, as we move forward, how can we still prioritize those things, but do it in a way that is different than how we've done it before. So I just think that we have to be open to all those ideas. From my perspective, the board was very much in favor of more equitable opportunities for pre-K, and that's going to require us, and I think you've already been doing it, to really get creative with what it is. So I'm wondering, Mary, if one of the next steps is, do we ask Christy to come back with some ways to do what we're asking her to do, some ways to find that space for pre-K? And, you know, one of the things that I heard Mary say is think beyond the walls that exist too, that, you know, we do have a little capital improvement money that we could potentially use if we needed to move a wall or adjust a you know, the square footage within one room to make room additional square footage in another room. Let's try to use Vern to see how creative we could be in that sense as well. So can you come back maybe in March with some ideas about how we can find that
Yeah,
space?
absolutely. I actually met with Vern and Morgan today, and we were meeting for another reason, but we talked about preschool for a little bit, and that's what we had talked about as well, right?
Okay.
Coming back with, you know, here's some three. So we have some ideas, they're just not necessarily fully formed. But to come back with, right, here's like 3 different scenarios of things that we could do.
Okay, great.
Great. That sounds great. Thank you so much. All right. And anything else, Christy, that you wanted to highlight or add?
I don't think so.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. So, wow, this is rapid fire here. Okay. So, anyone have on the board have a future agenda item that they want to mention in the moment?
I would just say marginally related to future items for folks who will be at the SU meeting in February on the 28th. My hope is that we'll be in a place at the end of that meeting after that transportation study to, I'm hoping to come away with enough direction that I can put your transportation contract out to bid. That contract is up on June 30th. And so as usual, you've got the idea or the ability to just negotiate a rollover contract without any real change to the scope. But I think you will also be seeing from Decision Support Group some different ideas on how you could expand equity in terms of pre-K and in terms of after school programming and in terms of high school choice within the BSU. So I just want folks to be kind of aware of that possibility in the end of the month.
Okay, great. Thanks, Morgan. As far as the SU board representative report, I know Emily, you're here now, or Kat, do you all, either of you want to talk a little bit about last month's SU meeting?
So Mary, you didn't have a January
that's
SU
right.
meeting, and I think you did from my memory, I think, which could be wrong, I think you did the December.
I did. That's right. Yeah, thank you. What a blur. What a blur. That's right. it was
You had
actually.
me so worried for a minute. I'm like, I don't remember a meeting. I'm really tired. For very good
No, that was my bad. I forgot that we
Yeah.
felt like we could punt January's meeting until February. So that we'll do one the next time round. So then our next meeting is March 2nd, and that brings us to entering executive session so we can say goodbye to principals. Thank you all so much.
Good night.
For joining us. Good night.
Night, everyone.
And I'll make a motion to enter executive session at 7:07. By roll,
For
Aaron.
personnel,
What's that, Morgan?
to enter executive for personnel.
Yes, for personnel. And we're with Morgan and Lynn staying on. By roll, Aaron.
Aye.
Miranda,
Hi.
Arlene,
Aye.
Pat,
Hi.
John,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
Emily,
Hi.
and Mary is an aye.
And you are out of executive.
Okay, great. Thank you, Morgan. And so I'm going to make a motion to approve the superintendent moving forward with the teacher and staff retention strategies as outlined in executive session. I'll do this by roll. Aaron,
Jane.
Arlene,
Aye.
Emily,
Hi.
Lisa,
Aye.
Kat,
Hi.
John.
Is this the vote I'm supposed to abstain from?
Yes,
Okay. Abstain.
abstain. Miranda
Aye.
and Mary is an aye. Great. Thank you all so much. Anything further?
I don't have anything further.
Okay, excellent. Well, stay safe out there in the big snow that's coming, and we'll look forward to seeing everyone for our annual meeting in the virtual realm on February 23rd.
I believe that's right.
Yeah, I'm not looking at my calendar, but I'm pretty sure that's it. And everyone take care. I'll make the motion to adjourn. If you can give me a thumbs up or a wave. Thank you so much. Take care, everyone.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank
See you
you.
later.